Right, that didn't go quite to plan, did it? I'm worried. I'll be honest with you. I am worried about what I saw tonight. Take this result in isolation and forget about the win against City, forget about the win against Liverpool, forget the fact that we're in an FA Cup final for a minute. The fact that we made some changes to the team and we were that poor today. We brought in players that are supposedly there to fill in the likes of Rob Holding, Lucas Torreira, Cedric Suarez, Eddie Nketiah. We made a few slight tweaks to a winning formula and it changed everything so drastically. It concerns me a hell of a lot because it shows to me that some of these players that came in just aren't good enough. And I think we've got to put sentiment aside for a little bit. I'm talking about players like Rob Holding. We need upgrades on these players because some of these players, as much as we love them, just aren't good enough to even fill in. And I think that was really evidenced tonight. And as I say, I'm deeply concerned by what I saw, even though we're coming up against a Villa side that are fighting for survival. They're going to be putting everything into this game. We're maybe thinking ahead to that FA Cup final. In my opinion, it's no excuse. And it really infuriates me that we've gone from beating two fantastic teams in Liverpool and City to now losing to Aston Villa. We've got Watford, which this team will not care about whatsoever because they'll be thinking ahead to that cup final. And we could potentially lose that game as well. If we lose to Villa and Watford, having beaten Liverpool and City, and then go into that game against Chelsea, our heads are going to be all over the place. Confidence will not be at the point that it should be. We haven't kept momentum going if that's the case. And, I mean, we've lost momentum now. Let's be real, we've lost the momentum. And that's the most frustrating thing about this for me. If we'd have beaten Liverpool City, beaten Villa and Watford, and still probably finished outside the top seven, I'd still have been really happy with that going into the cup final. But the fact of the matter is, we're definitely not finishing in the top seven now. We're definitely not getting Europa League football via the Premier League. But we've now killed any good confidence we had going into the cup final. We can restore a little bit of it against Watford, but we've really shot ourselves in the foot here. And yeah, it's really, really bad for me. Really, really bad. Villa, all credit for their win, defended resiliently, but we also never looked like scoring going forwards. And when you consider we had Aubameyang, Lacazette, Eddie Nketiah up front, it's troubling that we weren't able to score. In that second half when we bought Nicola Pepe, he wasn't able to have a look in. It's worrying that we weren't able to create any clear-cut chances in this game. We barely had, I don't even know if we had a shot on target. I know we hadn't in the first half, but created very little. A lot of our tactics seem to be just getting it in the box via the likes of Cedric and Tierney when he came onto the pitch. But apart from that, we just looked clueless, we looked hapless. And although we dominated possession, that really glosses over what was a very, very underwhelming performance. I can't emphasise that enough. I wouldn't call us dominant. I thought we controlled possession, but we did nothing with that possession. We played it backwards and forwards a lot. It was unimaginative, it was lacking in creativity. And I think this is a game where Arteta does warrant criticism. And this is by no means me saying Arteta out or anything, because I know people do take it quite literally nowadays. But if you're thinking that way, you are an absolute cretin. But he did get it wrong, let's be honest. And he'll probably look back at this game knowing he got it wrong. That team selection was baffling. It was bewildering. It was so bizarre. And I think it doesn't help that we've gone from a couple of games where we're playing on the back foot, we're counter-attacking, to a game where we would typically dominate possession, control the game, create opportunities. And I don't think we were in the right frame of mind to play that attacking, free-flowing football to try and break down a very resilient side. You could argue that even in the games against Wolves, Leicester, Spurs, we were still playing that defensive way, trying to hit teams on the counter. So we haven't really had a game where we're really dominating the ball, creating opportunities left, right and centre. So it was kind of a culture shock in that sense. But the changes that we made were too negative, I thought. They were too wholesale, taking out Mustafi, who's, as much as criticism as he gets, he is very important to the way we play going forward. He gets in front of a defender, he intercepts the ball, he passes it forward without even thinking. He does it very quickly, and that's also why he gets a lot of criticism, because he can play it into no man's land. But when it works, in the system that has been working, it's a huge beneficiary to us. Taking Xhaka out has been so pivotal to the way we play, and how well he's worked alongside Danny Ceballos, I think, was a big call. And then the front three, I just didn't understand it, to be honest. Three strikers. Really? Three strikers. You're relying on massively on wit from Bukayo Saka and Cedric. I don't think it helped that the two of them had particularly poor games this evening. Cedric was maybe a little bit better, but Saka was definitely one of his poorest games in an Arsenal shirt. And it's going to happen for an 18-year-old. I mean, he's going to have games like that, but also yeah, as I say, we were relying so much on the width, and we barely had any creativity going forward. We had no link between midfield and attack. The front three barely touched the ball in the first half because they weren't getting any service. Didn't help that Lacazette was dreadful. He had a really poor game. Couldn't hold up the ball whenever he did. Passed the ball, it went out of play. It's a real shame after what's been a really good period for him that he dropped an absolute clanger today. But as did the whole team. I mean, you've got to take into account that we've played a lot of football recently. Fatigue, tiredness might come into it. But again, it's no excuse for quite how bad we were, especially when you consider the refreshed players were brought into the team and didn't look good at all. The interesting change I thought was bringing Lucas Torreira in for Dani Ceballos, and this is again another problem area I think for Arsenal. Taking Xhaka out of the team is a huge, enormous hindrance to us in midfield. Takes away our midfield effectively. Ceballos is too much like Torreira. And I think we've been under the impression that Ceballos is a creative, flair type of player, and whilst he does have some of those traits, he's actually a lot more like Torreira than we might think he is. He's tenacious, he breaks down play, he gets the ball, he tackles, he's got all those abilities that Torreira had when he first came to the club. And Torreira is a warrior type player. He's the type to shield, and that's where we saw his best performances, when he was sitting in front of the back four, breaking up play, allowing Xhaka to play the ball forward. So it's either got to be Xhaka and Torreira, or Xhaka and Ceballos. Xhaka is pivotal to our team, and you can see why we're in for another midfielder like Partey, because without a kind of controlling midfielder in there, we are hapless in midfield. We're absolutely hapless, and someone like Joe Willock isn't the answer. He's another hapless player that runs around a lot. Again, it is troubling that our midfield does look so dependent on Granit Xhaka. And again, it's testament to how good Xhaka's been and how much he's been able to turn his Arsenal career around. But yeah, that's concerning. The one goal Villa scored, you could argue we were unfortunate. I'd say it was poor defending, just letting the ball go out to Trezeguet, who's completely unmarked, and Cedric could have blocked it. But it's an unbelievable strike, to be fair to Trezeguet. I mean, even the best keepers in the world don't keep that out. Fantastic strike to make it 1-0. But it was comfortable for Villa after that point. They should have had a second one. I can't remember quite who it was, but I think it was Davies, if that was his name. But he had a great chance through on goal, completely fluffed his lines, and it just, thankfully for us, went past the post. But yeah, I mean, we didn't look like scoring at any point. The closest we came was through that Nketiah header, which was just off the inside of the post. Apart from that, can't think of anything. Honestly, I can't think of any other clear-cut chance we had. But for me, and I'm sure for you guys as well, making those slight intricate changes to the team and seeing the huge impact they had is worrying. It shows that we do need to sell some of these players. It shows that we need to reinvest properly and appropriately in players that are going to work in Arteta's system, and hopefully we can move on next summer. But I think we've got to anticipate that we're not out of the woods yet. You know, we've beaten Liverpool, we've beaten City, we've lost to Aston Villa. That's what this Arsenal team is at the moment. Unpredictable, extremely unpredictable. And that's what scares me about that cup final. I don't know what Arsenal's going to turn up. Really worries me. But I'm sure it's coming across, but I'm so frustrated. I'm infuriated with how we've played tonight, because it felt to me like the players didn't really care about this game. I felt that was reflected in the team selection, to be honest, as well. It's just a team selection that didn't really have much thought into it, to be honest. I thought it was kind of like, we'll throw a few attacking players in and we'll see what we can do. We should be able to beat Aston Villa. I thought it was slightly complacent. And I'm sure Arteta will be kicking himself with this result as well. But to have lost this game, and we've got such a massive game coming up in a few weeks against Chelsea, we want all the confidence we can get, and this is going to do us no favours. And whatever you think about this result, this game being meaningless, it's not meaningless, because we need to build confidence. It's all about winning at the moment. It's about seeing progression, good performances. And we're only going to get that by winning games, by playing well. And we did neither of those things tonight. And after having such a good period, I mean, in the games against Spurs and Leicester, where we didn't get the result we wanted, at least you could see that there were positive signs on the pitch, that the players were working hard. But we just fell into old habits today. And you could see that. It was so abundantly clear. And I'm just so hacked off with how this team has played tonight. Really annoyed. Couldn't care less about that Watford game. And I know that contradicts everything I've said in this video. But if the players don't care about tonight's game, then why should we care about that Watford game? Play the under-12s. That really is the epitome of a pointless game now. It doesn't mean anything to us. It means everything to Watford. It means nothing to us anymore. You might as well rest all our key players. with that game against Chelsea in mind, because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The only thing I can say is getting confidence up, because effectively we do need to. We need to bounce back after today's game. Yeah, thanks Arsenal. I'm going to leave it there. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll speak to you soon. See you later, guys.